when you have two quantities and one quantity increases as the other decreases, then it's say that the two quantities are inversely proportional. For example, 5 students want to share 60 candy bars. Now, if that happens, then each student will get 12 candy bars. How about if there are only 2 students for 60 candy bars? Then each student will get 30 candy bars. How about if there are 6 students? Each student will get 10. How about if there are 12 students? Then each student will get 5. How about if there are 20? Then each student will get 3 candy bars. Now, what you're going to do next is to multiply the number of students multiplied by the number of candy bars for each column. Now, for the first column, that will be 60. So you'll have 60 here. For the second column, we'll have 60, 60 again, 60, 60, and 60. Oops. So 60 all through. Now, this is what we call constant of proportionality. As you can see here, all these values here are constant. So this must be a constant. I can just write here, 60 is the constant of proportionality. Okay. Now, anyway, back to the observations. I want us to look at some observations from this table. Okay. One thing, of course, that you can notice is what I've just written there. That in fact, let me write here. Observations from the table. Now, the first observation is that the number of students multiplied by the number of candy bars is equals to 60. So, number of students multiplied by the number of candies or candy bars is equals to 60. And we can see that. And it's constant all through. Another thing that we can notice is that the number of candy bars is equal to 60 divided by the number of students. Okay, so 60 here is the constant of proportionality because it relates the two quantities. Okay, so we can write here and say, so 60 is the constant of proportionality because it relates the two amounts. Actually, we can write this statement as a formula. We can say that the number of candy bars is equals to 60 divided by the number of students. That's very important. Okay. So you can say the number of candy bars is equals to 60 divided by the number of students. Okay? Why? Because 60 here is basically the constant of proportionality. It's rating the two amounts. And what's the relationship between them? 60, the number of candy bars is equals to 60 divided by the number of students. Now, I'll just take you back to some notation that you need to be familiar with. So, initially, we said that these two variables, students and candy bars, they're inversely proportional. So they're not directly proportional, they're inversely proportional. In mathematics, when two quantities are inversely proportional, this is how we write it. So C is inversely proportional to the number of students. This is how you write it. Okay? And this is used to mean that C, which is the number of candy bars, is inversely proportional to S. Okay? So C, which is the number of candy bars, is inversely proportional to S, which means as the number of candy bars, as the number of students increase, the number of candy bars reduce. Okay? Therefore, we can say, because there's a relation between that expression that I've just written and the equation. So, therefore, we can say it's not right. So, hence, we can say that C is proportional to 1 over S is another way, basically, it's another way of writing C is equals to K over S. Why? Because when two quantities are inversely proportional, there has to be a constant that relates them, right? So C is inversely proportional to 1 over S. C is inversely proportional to S, and this is how we write it. This is how we write it. Is another way of writing, because there's a constant that connects the two quantities. An alternative way is just writing C is equal to K over S, because even in that form, as one quantity increases, the other one will be increasing. As the number of students increase, the number of candies will be reducing. Okay? Anyway, this will make more sense when you look at an example. So, by the way, this is the formula that connects the number of candies and the number of students for this particular question. And we can use this formula to work out a similar example. So you can use this formula to work out any missing value. So 15 students want to share 60 candies. How many candy bars will each student get? Now the formula is C is equals to 60 divided by S. That's the formula that we came up from the previous page, which means that the number of candy bars, if there are 15 students, will be $60 divided by 15, and that will give us 4 candies. So each student will get 4 candy bars.